Hello, welcome to the Coop. My name's Fowl. Welcome to episode number 5 of Coop Corner Chat. I hope you're all doing fantastic. Don't forget, guys, that you can comment down below what topics you'd like me to talk about, and if you do get a topic talked about in the next episode, you'll get 1,000 Fowl eggs. So anyway, into today's topic. It's something still to do with gaming, but something that is a little bit away from toxicity, because I know that a lot of our videos have been about that. So today we're going to talk about what is the best purchase structure for games in 2020. What do I mean by purchase structure? Let's get straight into a quick idea of that. So we're talking about the way that you buy a game. Simple as that. This can go across all different platforms. By the way, I'm not just talking about PC gaming. So the first way I'm going to talk about is subscription service. So this is where simply you sign up to a subscription, anywhere normally between £5 to £20 a month, depending on how big the game is, and you pay that every single month to continue playing the game. This is normally for things like MMORPGs, but it's not solely for those. A couple of games that use this, for example, World of Warcraft is the obvious one that comes to mind, EVE Online, things like that. The second type of structure I'm going to talk about is simply buying a full price game. Either going to the store or going to the online market and buying a game at full cost. Now, when we talk about full cost, we're talking about a game that costs anywhere between £30 to £50 is the standard sort of price you can expect to see, depending on whether it's a AAA title or not. These are games like FIFA, Call of Duty, F1, games that you can always expect I'm going to be buying that at full price. The third method we'll be talking about today is free to play. Now, this is one that obviously was going to come in. There are lots and lots of games out there currently that you can start playing for free, no trial period, just there you go, the game is free itself. The obvious one that comes to mind is games like Fortnite. I'm going to talk about that sort of style as well. And the fourth one we're going to talk about is early access games. So this is a bit of a one I'm bolting on at the end, because you could turn around and say, well, it doesn't really fit in this category because it's a game that hasn't really come out. But we're talking about when it's been released as early access fully. When games have come out, they're not being taken away from you. You're not playing an alpha or a beta. It's literally, hey, the game is available. Just be aware, the devs don't think it's finished yet. So we're going to talk about that as well. So the question we're going to really answer today is that for the average game, which one of these is best in 2020 for the consumers and for the developers? Now, the reason why I say the average game is because we know that there are certain game types out there that will always fit that sort of type. For example, we know that MMOs, 90% of them will end up being a subscription service, because the whole point of an MMO is to play it for a long, long time. And we know that, some mobile games and some smaller developers will always go free to play. So I know that there are some game types that will always go down one route, but in this video, we're talking about the average game. So now let's go into each of one of those payment structures in more depth and talk about the positives and negatives of each of them. So let's start with a subscription service. So what's good about a subscription service? Well, to begin with, it's cheap to try. Normally the first month you subscribe is exactly the same as a normal month. So it could be, you might only be paying £8 to get started in this game. I mean, put to one side that sometimes you do get a bit of a trial period. Yeah, some subscription services will say you can play the first 14 days for free, and if you don't like it, you can cancel it. But let's just put that to one side. Even if you have to pay the initial subscription service, it's still cheaper. If you play it for 2 weeks and decide this game's not for me, you've only spent £8 rather than spending potentially full price for a game. So it's kind of like having a trial period anyway. Now, another good thing about the subscription service is sometimes we like to have a bit of a hiatus from games. Sometimes you might decide, actually, until the next DLC comes out, I'm going to put that game to bed for a while. And what's nice is you can normally you can actually pause the subscription services. So you can cancel the subscription service or pause it and say, there you go, I'm not going to be able to play that game for 2 months. Maybe you're going on holiday, maybe you've got other games you're going to play, maybe you're waiting for DLC, and then when you fancy playing that game again, you restart your subscription and you play as if you never stopped. So it's a good way of kind of pausing and not having to spend more money rather than having to just go, well, I paid for the game, I have to play it. And also the last kind of thing I'll talk about in terms of positive things of subscription services is normally it does mean there are no in-game pay-to-win methods, and it also normally means there's regular free DLC. Now, I appreciate that's not the case for every game. You look at World of Warcraft, for example, you've still got to pay for other expansions, but a lot of games that I see that are subscription based will not charge you for DLC, because the whole point is you're paying for an ongoing game. So whenever new DLCs come out, you get them. So that is normally a common positive you see. Let's talk about the negatives of subscription service then. So the main negative I can see is the expense. If you play a game that is a subscription service for 2 years, then you're going to pay 24 months worth of the subscription. If that's, just a tenner a month, then you're already talking £240 for that game. Whereas if it was a game that just cost you 40 quid from the get-go, it's a ridiculous amount cheaper. Now, obviously, if you were to put in, 30 hours a week into this game for 2 years, then you might argue that £240 has been completely worth it. But we all know that we all live busy lives at times. In that 2 years where you've been paying the subscription service, you might have had many months worth of time where you haven't even picked up the game at all. So you could argue that it's been a waste. So unless you're constantly cancelling or putting your sub back in, it's a very, very expensive way to play a game. Now, it's also easily forgettable to cancel the subscription. I can put my hand up and say that I fall victim of it, and I'm sure everyone else has as well, where you sign up to a game subscription, you play it for a couple of months, you stop playing, but don't unsub at the point you stop playing because you fully intend to play again, but maybe you just don't get time to play it again, or you get so engrossed in another game, and it gets to the point where you go, oh, I've been paying for like 3 months for that, I should have cancelled it, and you've actually wasted money. And the last negative I'll talk about for subscription service is the fact that, as I did say, it is something you normally only get for MMOs, which is a little bit disappointing. I'd like to see some more subscription services in other games, personally. Alright, so now let's talk about the positives and negatives of buying a simply full price game. There you go, there's my money, there's the game, sir, thank you very much, go and play. Firstly, you get the full game with no hidden doors. You know what you're paying for, you pay your cash, you get the game that you are expecting to get. This normally also means that the game is finished and normally flawless. I know that some games have been bought and are buggy, but for the most part, if you are buying a AAA title, full price game, you're expecting it to be completely fine, sorted. And also, with full price games, you tend to not have an in-game store, and if you do, it's never pay to win. Well, I can't say never. It happened. EA, thanks very much. Battlefront 2, I should say. But in general terms, if you look at the average, games that you buy full price don't normally have extra money you have to spend within the game, unless they're really trying to cash grab. The negative of a full price game, let's be honest, the biggest negative, it's the most costly way to buy a game from the get-go. Simple as that. It's the most amount of money that's going to leave your pocket to start playing a game right now. 50, 60 quid, bam, out my pocket, give me the game. This is the other issue as well with a full price game. If you then don't enjoy the game, it can be very hard to get your money back. Now, obviously, if you were on console and you bought the disc, yes, you can go and sell that disc to a secondhand store. But even if I went out and bought Call of Duty brand new in the store, then went to CEX, for example, and sold it, you're going to still make a bit of a loss, more so than what a subscription would cost. Let's say that you bought it digitally, well, that's it, you can't sell it. It is quite good for PC users, especially if you buy it through Steam. If you've only put in 2 hours or less into the game, you can refund it for free. But if you put in more than 2 hours into the game, or if you bought it from another digital store and you decide you don't like it, that's it. You've just lost 40 to 60 quid. Not going to get it back. Let's talk about free-to-play now. Because free-to-play is an interesting one, because it's something we're seeing more commonly in gaming at the moment. Obviously, the biggest positive is it's free, meaning you can click download, install it, start playing, and not a penny would have left your account. This obviously is fantastic, a bit like a subscription service that you can, if you decide you don't like it, you can just delete the game. There's been many free-to-play games that I've picked up, played 10 minutes of, gone, nah, I don't like that, and deleted it, and it hasn't been an issue at all. So there's no money to buy the game, and there's no money lost by refunding it either. Now, the next positive for free-to-play games is it tends to, again, I appreciate this is all very vague, it tends to give you a smoother multiplayer experience. The reason for this is with free-to-play games, you're going to have a much higher player base, depending on the game, obviously. And if you're going to have a higher player base, then you're going to have a smoother matchmaking experience in multiplayer. Again, that's all dependent on, is it a good enough game that people even want to play it for free? And obviously, how good is their matchmaking system and servers? But it is still a positive. The more people we have playing a game, the more likely you are to find a game when it comes to competitive matchmaking. And another positive, which I really quite like, is the social aspect of free-to-play. You know, if you found a game that you really, really like and it's free, it's very easy to turn around to your friends and say, hey guys, why don't you play this game with me? It's going to be really fun. You know, a lot of my friends don't always have 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 quid that can just splash out if I say I found a game that I like. So being able to say, hey, this is a free game, jump on board, let's play together, is really good. It's a really good positive of free-to-play games. Negatives of free-to-play, you can kind of see where I'm going with this one. Almost certainly will have some form of paid cosmetic store. Now, don't get me wrong, game developers have to get money somehow. I am not shitting on the fact that game developers have to get money. And you know what? A paid cosmetic store is okay. It's okay. You know, as long as it is always cosmetic and never actually affects the game. It's just, hey, look, if you want this awesome skin, pay a little bit of money for it. I personally like it if there's always a way to earn that skin as well. I feel like there should always be a way to actually earn it, even if it takes 2 years to do, because at least that's what it still gives people with no money a way to get some game content. What also comes with those sort of cosmetic stores is battle passes. For those who don't know what a battle pass is, I'll give you a quick rundown. It's simply a progression system within the game. The more you play the game, the more you level up the battle pass. The higher up the battle pass you go, the more cosmetics and loot and stuff you unlock. And normally they have a free battle pass and a paid battle pass. The free battle pass is obviously going to have significantly less content, but still you can earn some content, and the paid one will have ridiculous amounts of content and bonuses and XP bonuses and stuff like that. Again, I like the idea of a battle pass. I enjoy the replayability it gives you of, oh look, I want to earn this cosmetic, so I'm going to play the game. But again, if you're someone who hasn't got the money, you are then stuck not being able to get those cosmetics. And also, we have seen some games in the past that have used this system and put weapons or in-game items behind that battle pass, meaning essentially, unless you have money, you're not going to get a good gun in the game, which is a really, really easy way to destroy your game's community. And lastly, as it is a free-to-play game, you're often less likely to see updates from the devs, bug fixes, and DLC. Now, I appreciate if you think of Fortnite, you're going to turn around and say, Charlie, that's ridiculous. They're constantly updating it. They're constantly giving out DLC. You're right, but that's because Fortnite is incredibly, incredibly wealthy because of how popular it is. But if you look at generic free-to-play games, they are going to struggle to make as much money as other game developers putting out the game at full price or subscription service. So they're not going to have the money to be able to actually put the team forward and fix the game and sort it out. So they'll more likely be working on another game. So you are less likely to see those fixes. And then lastly, let's talk a little bit about early access games then. So the positives, firstly, you can get the game quicker than expected. You know, we've all been waiting for certain games for a long time. If, let's say, Cyberpunk suddenly came out today because they said, hey, you can play it in early access, people would love that because people have been waiting for that game for a long, long time. So you get to try out your games sooner than expected. You also, now this isn't necessarily for everyone, but I'm still going to put it as a positive, you get to be part of the experience in giving feedback back to the devs to make a better game. Personally, there's no better feeling than, you know, playing an early access game, being part of the community, giving feedback to how that game was, only to then see those changes be made. You feel like you have been part of that experience, and that would be really nice. Early access games will often be cheaper than what the full price game is. I know personally I've played quite a few early access games where I've bought it at a lower price, and when the full game comes out you still have access to it. So you kind of get the game cheaper on the basis of the devs saying, hey look, you're helping us out a little bit, so this is a little bit of a discount. That can sometimes go the other way though, and also can be a negative. Sometimes I have seen early access games where they've actually been more expensive, where you're paying for the luxury of paying the game earlier, but we'll come on to that in a second. You also get additional content in the game to show off. So quite often when you buy into early access, you will get titles or mounts or items, cosmetics in-game, so that if the game becomes, you know, a massively popular game 4 years later, you can rock that skin to show, yeah, I was here from the very, very beginning. And lastly, as another positive, you normally get devs that listen. If they've released the game in early access, it's because they are aware the game is not finished and they need feedback from the public and from the community to get that game perfect. So you are normally going to hear from the devs a lot more often, see more updates, and see improvements to the game. The negatives of early access then, we've already discussed one of them, the fact that quite often you have to pay more to gain access to the game early, only for the game to be buggy in the first place. You're often gaining access to only part of the game as well. You don't always get the entire game for that early access. You might only get access to 40% of it, which can sometimes actually put you off the full game experience. It's often buggy or doesn't feel finished because obviously it's in early access for a reason. It's not going to be perfect. And if you're someone that doesn't enjoy playing buggy games or gets stressed when you find a bug, then it's only going to put you off the game and make you less likely to want to play it when it's fully out. Sometimes they make it so that early access games are only playable for a certain amount of time. So they might only have the servers up for a limited time, like it's on an alpha. I definitely don't like it when they do that. And sometimes the game can be left in the early access stage for years. This is the biggest issue with early access games, is they get released into early access far too early as a way of the games company getting more money in quickly. But the game is going to take a year or so, or maybe longer, to get the game ready. The game that comes to mind for me is DayZ. That game was in early access and Rust actually, another game. Both of those games were in early access for a ridiculous amount of time. Now the games were good, and they were getting constant updates, but it never felt perfect for years. And if you buy into the early access, again, it might sometimes ruin your experience because you play it for so long in early access that you decide, nah, this game isn't being worked on, and leave it. And yeah, you feel like you've wasted your money. So let's talk about my final verdict then, because let's be honest, all of those different subscription or payment services have their own advantages and disadvantages. So it's really hard to say one is better than them all. However, there is one that stands out to me that, from what I've seen, tends to be the way to go in 2020 anyway, and that is free to play. If I had to get rid of 3 of the other subscription services, if I had to get rid of 3 of the other payment structures and choose one to only ever see for the rest of my gaming career, I would go with free to play. And here's the reason. There have been so many free to play games in the last 3 to 5 years that people tend to expect it now. The gaming community is actually getting quite entitled, that they feel like they're entitled to play the game without having to pay for it. And one game that has kind of tipped my opinion on this one, because I didn't like free to plays before, is actually Rocket Arena. Not Rocket League, Rocket Arena. Do a bit of research if you want to take a look at it, but anyone in my community will know my opinion on it. So Rocket Arena is a game that I reckon if they'd have released it as free to play, they would still have a massive community now. But they decided to charge £25 for the game. Understandable. Is the game worth £25? Absolutely, it is. However, people look at it and go, oh, that looks like Fortnite. That looks, that should be free to play. Unless it's a game they've been waiting for a long time, they're not willing to part with their money to try it out. They don't want to risk spending the money and not getting £25 worth of the game. On top of that, especially in the kind of position in the world we are, not everyone has loads of money to shed out for loads of games coming out. So free to play, personally, is where I think games developers should go. Unless your game is a AAA title that has been hyped up like crazy, and it's a game that everyone knows and loves, like Call of Duty, FIFA, Forza, a game that you know what you're getting. If it's a game that's new, no one's ever seen it before, free to play is the way to go, in my opinion. As long as you do not fill your free to play stores with paywalls and pay to win features. If you want to make your money off of cosmetics and then DLC in the future, that's absolutely fine. But the base game should at least be free, or at worst case, a free trial. Anyway, that is my opinion on for the average game in 2020, which payment structure is best. I would love to hear your comments below of whether you think that I'm right or wrong about any of the particular stances that I spoke about. I'd love to hear your opinion of which one you prefer when you buy your games, and which one do you think is best for game developers in the current time frame we are. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. For those that have watched it all the way to the end, there's a Coop Easter egg for you. Coop Easter egg 6587. If you've watched it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in episode 6 next week. Remember, you can comment below if you want to type any ideas for Coop Corner Chat, and if your idea gets picked, I will give you 1,000 Fowl legs in my Twitch stream. Have a fantastic evening. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Fowl Play Gaming. Stay wholesome.